Hello and welcome to 8-Bit Crisis. I'm Link.
And I'm Luigi, and we're here to help you explore the era of 8-bit computing when Acorn, Amstrad, Sinclair and Commodore ruled the digital waves.
Absolutely. And you're here for our first ever episode on the channel, so it's great to have you with us. Luigi, the whole point of this channel is to introduce you to my childhood. Back in the 1980s, when I was exploring these microcomputers that we're going to be looking at now in 2024. And what I loved about this era, I didn't really know this at the time, but looking back, this was the time when all of those games from the arcades arrived into people's homes, and they got better as the years went by. But I suppose the other thing I really liked about it was you could actually learn about how the computers worked, and if you wanted to, you could learn how to make your own games, and that isn't really possible with the new technology.
Yeah, I will admit that is one of the perks of the old computing, but I still believe quite strongly that the current games that I play, like FIFA and games like that, they're way superior in almost every other way. Graphics, gameplay, like involvement, and price is pretty much the same.
Well,
if you take inflation.
I definitely agree with you that the graphics, you can't really argue, they are much better now. But looking back, there were good games of the time, and then there was a lot of rubbish games, and that still applies now. There's a lot of games made today which are not very good, so you have to sift through a little bit and find those games that are actually good fun. And I promise you that although the graphics may not be there and the sound won't be as good, there are still some gems which are just really, really good fun to play and really addictive. Yeah. So I'm hoping you'll be happy to join me on the journey. What we're going to do for this series is we're going to have a look at the computers that were about at the time, the successful ones in particular, the manufacturers who made them. We're going to do some unboxing of some gear that we buy. We're going to look at emulators online. We're going to look at a little bit of coding and how people used to work with the machines back in the 1980s, and also play some games as well. The purpose is to try to introduce Luigi to this long gone era and hopefully get some fun out of it still, learn about the history of it, and see that there is still some merit in looking at these things in the same way that people still look at old classic cars, and I know you like some of the old cars to look at, and I suppose in the same way that some people go away on glamping holidays or even just camping compared to a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
You can still do both today, and you can still get a lot of enjoyment from both, even though they're very different things.
Yeah, I'm going to keep open-minded. Hopefully you can persuade me to go over to the side of the 8-bit games.
Great, so let's do it. So first of all, we're going to have a look at one of those manufacturers from the day, Sinclair, and learn a little bit about what they were doing at the time and what machines they were making. Now, one of the first computers that I ever had, not the first, but one of the first computers I had was actually the ZX Spectrum, which was made by a company called Sinclair. And back in the day, it was called a microcomputer. Luigi, do you know why we would have called them microcomputers?
Because the other computers that you'd originally had were like the size of a building.
Yeah, basically that's it. So computers before that had been really, really big, and they gradually, over about 2 or 3 decades, I think, got quite a lot smaller, to the point where you had something that was small enough to fit on the desk at home. So they called them a microcomputer. Yeah. So I had a Spectrum, and there were quite a few similarities between the computers back then and the computers today. So for example, they had the QWERTY keyboard, so all of the layout of the letters was arrived. Do you know how it says QWERTY at the top of the keyboard? QW on this one, QWERTY. That's called a QWERTY keyboard.
What does it mean though?
Well, it's just
the layout.
This is the layout of the letters on here. Yeah. So,
okay.
So that's a similarity. Enter keys and shift keys and space keys and all of those kind of things had been agreed on. But there were differences back then. So For example, all of the computer and the keyboard was one unit, right?
Okay.
And on the Spectrum, for example, you had rubber keys rather than the spring-loaded keys that you have on the modern computers. And one of the biggest differences was that you tended to plug them into televisions. So you'd have like an old CRT TV at home.
Okay.
And you'd plug it into that, and you'd have an old aerial cable called an RF cable, radio frequency cable.
Okay.
Yeah, so similar to the kind of thing that went up into the area in your loft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there were similarities, there were differences. The biggest difference was that they were massively underpowered. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about Sinclair first. So, Sinclair, company in England, run by a guy called Clive Sinclair. Before he got involved in computers, he made digital watches, and they had sort of moderate success with some fairly unreliable digital watches, I think. And then after making computers, he moved into making something called the C5, and this was like a recumbent moped go-kart thing that was pedal powered with a battery in it, and he was trying to convince the British public that this was actually a car.
Isn't that just a moped?
Yeah, it was a moped go-kart thing, so it wasn't very good at all. It didn't sell very much, and that was kind of the end of Sinclair, I think. But in between those things, he started making computers. He made something called the ZX80 and the ZX81, which were a bit underpowered and not particularly useful, but they were kind of home computers that you could have. And then he hit on the Spectrum, which you can think of as being like the ZX82.
Oh, okay.
The next one. Why do you think it was called the Spectrum? Any idea?
Because it has like a spectrum of colour, maybe?
Perfect, yeah, that is the answer. And I haven't told him that already. It's because it's got colours coming up on the screen, whereas the previous ones were like a monochrome colour.
Yeah.
So the Spectrum was the first one to arrive in my house. So do you have any questions?
I do have one, and that's what could you actually do with it?
Okay, so I mean the main thing on all of them was playing games. Yeah, to a certain extent they were toys, I think. Yeah. You had to use like a tape deck, so you'd put cassette tapes in and load the games, and then later on you got some I think they were called the micro drives on the Sinclairs, and then really later on you did eventually get a disk drive, but we'll come on to that. You could use it for coding. So it was possible to, in fact it was only really possible to go in and do coding in it. There wasn't what's called a graphical user interface. When you go into Windows or onto your phone, and you have all of those menus and icons and things that you can press, that's called a graphical user interface. That didn't exist. You had to type in code if you wanted to tell the computer to do anything. Yeah, so you had to learn the language, which is what we'll be doing later. It had 16 colours. 16 different colours, and it had the original ones had a beeper in them, so they didn't even have a proper sound chip. They just had a beeper which could beep at different frequencies and for different amounts of time to make some kind of music. So yeah, I think it was a little bit limited, but the games were good and they got better as the years went by. So let's just talk about the models then. So initially, it launched in 1982. It was, we'll show some images on the screen, and I'll show those to you later as well. But there was like a black rectangular box, which was about the size of a book, and it had rubber keys in it.
Okay.
And you had to buy a tape deck separately for it. There was no mouse, there was just a keyboard. I think those really early ones didn't even have a joystick port in them, if memory serves. Yeah, so all of the games you'd play with these really awful rubber keys. They then came out with something called the Sinclair QL, but that didn't sell very well. That was meant to be a much better Spectrum in effect, but it had double the clock power on the CPU. It had twice as much RAM. So it was like twice as powerful, but the problem was it didn't have any games on it. It had about 50 games, I think, in the end, and also business users were using IBM, which was a different manufacturer. So this computer failed, but it did have a better keyboard on it. So they then produced something called the Spectrum Plus, which had this new keyboard on it, so that then got a little bit better. So I think that took us up to about 1984. And in 1985, they took the leap of upgrading to 128 kilobytes of RAM. So it had like 48 kilobytes went up to 128 kilobytes. And that was, I think that was seen as one of the better Spectrums. Yeah. What happened after that was that the Amstrad company came in because of decline in sales at Sinclair, and they bought Sinclair's computers, so they started making the Spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah. So that happens a lot when we're looking over these computers. The different things that the companies are doing becomes part of the story. You know Alan Sugar, don't you? You know Alan Sugar?
You're fine.
Yep, that's the one from The Apprentice.
Oh yeah.
So he ran Amstrad, Alan Michael Sugar Trading. That's the company. And it later got sold to Sky, I think. But he went to Clive Sinclair and said, we'll buy the computer part of the company. So then Amstrad started to make these Spectrum computers, and they became called things like the Plus 2 and the Plus 2A and the Plus 2B and the Plus 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we've bought one. So about a week ago, do you want to get it?
Yeah, I'll get it.
You just turn it around and show it to the camera. This is actually a 1986 Amstrad made, but it's a Sinclair 128K ZX Spectrum Plus 2. And the reason that we went for this model is that the ones they made after this weren't really compatible with all of the old Spectrum games, but this actually has the benefit of having a tape loader built into it. It's got 2 joystick ports on the left hand side, and it's got better audio coming out of it. And also it's not just, if you show this side here, Luigi,
okay,
we get all the ports on the back, and as well as having the aerial output, there's also an RGB output, and that's really important for us because we need to be able to connect this to a modern LCD monitor. Yeah. And with a little bit of magic and gubbins, we can get that to go into the monitor. So we actually have a proper machine from the 1980s, and it works. It's nearly as old as me, that is. Okay. So as time goes by, we're going to talk more about the machines and the business and the history, but I think now's a good time to actually go into our first little segment of how does it work. So, Luigi, we've got our Sinclair Spectrum, okay?
Yep.
What I want to do a little bit of is, as the episodes go by, I just want you to become more familiar of actually how it works and what's inside it. So do you remember a few weeks ago, before we made our new computer for this channel, that we took the old computer apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a look in there. Now, most of the things that are in that old computer are actually in this even older computer, the Spectrum. So what I'd like to do is just test you a little bit on camera to see how much you can remember about what was inside that old computer and what the different parts did.
Okay, I'll try.
Go on then.
It might work.
So, what was in it?
I thought you were going to question me.
No, I want you to tell me what you remember about what was inside the computer.
There's a graphics card, which is like how you get the graphics and everything. There's the CPU, which is like, without it, it's the only thing that can do calculations, isn't it? There's the RAM, which is like how much data almost you've got. There's the cooling fans, which cool down the CPU. Was it a fan system in our?
Yeah, there is in the new computer.
No, in the old one.
In the old one, there was just one fan on the CPU.
Oh, it was one fan, okay.
Yeah. But you don't actually get any fans in these old ones at all. Was there anything else that we saw in there?
Oh god, I can think of something, but I can't remember what it is or what it does.
So there are two things. There's the solid state drive or the hard disk, which
Yeah.
stores all of the
That's what I
long-term
was thinking,
memory. And there's also the wireless adapter, that allows the computer to adapt, connect to the internet, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the main structure hasn't changed very much over the years. So the Sinclair Spectrum and all of the microcomputers, they had a CPU in them. So you're right, the CPU is the brain of the computer that does all of the calculations and takes things from memory and puts things to memory and decides what to put on the screen and what sound should be made and all of that kind of thing. Yeah. And then there's the RAM memory. So we talk about 128K of RAM on this, which is 128 kilobytes.
How much is on our current, high quality?
64 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah. So 1 gigabyte is 1 million kilobytes. So we've got 64 million kilobytes, and this has got 128 kilobytes on the old Spectrum. Yeah. But the RAM is the memory that it's working with all the time. So the computer's constantly putting some information into storage, and then it's retrieving it, and then it's sending it somewhere else. But the more RAM you have, the more complicated the programs are that it can run, the more graphics information the computer can hold, the more sound information it can hold, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah. So what the Spectrum doesn't have is any hard disk. So you can't actually save anything onto the computer. If you turn the power off, it just loses absolutely everything that it had before, which is where those tapes come in useful. Because if you want to save something, you have to save it onto a tape. Yeah. You don't have a graphics card, just doesn't have one. You don't have a sound card, you just have that beeper in it that I talked about earlier. There's no mouse with it. You get a keyboard, and if you want to, you can plug a joystick in it. Do you want to grab one of those joysticks over there actually, and we'll just show the guys what we've got. Amstrad made some really bad joysticks to go with this computer, and they tried to block other manufacturers out of the market by making sure that the plug with the better joysticks didn't fit. So the company Cheetah had the good idea of actually connecting 2 plugs onto their joysticks so that you could actually put this one into the Amstrad Spectrums and use them. So we've got these good Cheetah joysticks, we've got 2 of them, haven't we, to use. Very good. So that's just a bit of an introduction into how the computers work. They are similar to modern ones, but all of the numbers are a lot smaller basically, and you don't get fancy things like graphics cards and that kind of thing. Okay, but later on in later episodes we're going to look at those components a little bit more, like the CPU and the RAM and that kind of thing, and just have a little bit of a deeper look at how they actually worked on the old microcomputers.
Oh yeah.
Sound good?
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Sounds amazing.
Now we get on to the fun bit. You're going to play your first game
on
the Spectrum. All right.
Okay, so Link has asked me to play a game from his date of birth, 1983. The game that won the Golden Joystick, Jetpac. So we're going to get this in quite quickly and start playing the game. So we're going to go into 48 Basic and then type load with the exclamation marks and then enter. Go, have to restart that because that has done something really weird. Why does it keep doing let?
You need to press the letter J and it will go load. That's it.
Okay, sorry about that. Going to enter, and while this loads I'm going to tell you more about this game and the people who made it, the Stamper Brothers. We did try and get a interview with them, but sadly they did decline this. Going? Oh, sorry about that. So we did try and get them, but they have done it to many other people and we didn't manage to. And they worked for Ultimate Play the Game, and in one of their games, Donkey Kong 64, on the Nintendo 64, they made an Easter egg where you can actually play Jetpac. They made sequels of this game, Solar Jetman and Lunar Jetman. They also, this is the Stamper Brothers, made GoldenEye, 007 GoldenEye, one of the most popular games on the Nintendos. They also made Donkey Kong World. And there might, on this game, be attribute clash, which is where on the pixels or the 8x8, they only were allowed 2 colours on the screen, not on the screen, on the 8x8 squares at one time. So the colours, things might change colour.
So here we have the screen loading, and we're going to leave this loading because there's a couple of things to tell you about, and also to just give you an idea of how long it takes for these games to load up from the tape. This will still be going on for another minute or two yet. So just going back to the Stamper Brothers, I think we did them some disservice there. They definitely didn't work for Ultimate Play the Game. They were the Ultimate Play the Game. And these guys were the ultimate coders in their day. They've got a serious CV behind them. I think, of course, we were disappointed they didn't want to do an interview, but I would have been disappointed if they'd agreed to it as well, because their entire career they have said no interviews. We let the games speak for themselves, and I think that's been a pretty good policy, because they have made some amazing games. So yeah, absolutely. We've got the attribute clash to watch out for whilst Luigi is playing the game, and I think it's probably just worth pointing out the controls you're going to be using on this game as well, because they're quite simple, aren't they?
Here, all we're going to be using is Z and X to move left and right, and then I to boost upwards and J to shoot.
That's right. So to give you an idea of what came with these games, whilst Luigi is getting to grips with the game, which will start now, I'm going to read out the blurb that came in the tape deck. So, the Acme Interstellar Transport Company is delivering spaceship kits to various planets in the solar systems throughout the galaxy, and as chief test pilot, all you have to do is assemble the rockets and thrust onto your next destination. So Luigi, you've got 1-player game and keyboard selected here, so if you press 5, it will begin the game.
Oh, 5, that explains why.
That's it, so be ready, because an alien's going to come and get you.
Oh god.
And you've lost a life. As everyone has who's ever started this game for the first time ever, you immediately lose some lives. It might help if you blast up, get away from them. Of course it is. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Oh my god.
But as you don't often get the chance of a free trip across the galaxy, and space travel is oh so expensive, now is your chance to get rich. You might just as well stop off on several planets on your journey, collect the odd sack of precious gems, elements or gold, and take them back with you. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Is it simple, Luigi?
No!
Keep going, you'll get the hang of it. But before you go and make yourself the richest person in the whole universe, you must remember to refuel your spaceship. Every time you land on a planet with 6 fuel pods, any other goodies you collect are yours to keep. Upon landing, you will find yourself equipped with the very latest Hydrovac Jetpac, which can automatically airlift almost any rocket stage, fuel pod, or valuables you care to land upon, and release them over the rocket ship base. Plus, mega powerful quad photon laser phasers to blast any nasty mean little aliens who might object to your visit. And my, do those aliens get upset when you collect all of their valuables and sneak off without so much as a goodbye. Well, that took some time. How are you getting on? Have you collected a piece of rocket yet?
I did. I just didn't get it.
You got it. There you go. That's it. So there's actually a vertical band going up from the rocket base.
No.
And as you pass that vertical band, whatever's in your hand drops out of it into the rocket.
Out.
Okay.
Because I was like, where's the drop button? How do I have to shoot to drop? Oh no. What was it?
Normally going left and then up is a good starting point on this particular level.
Oh god, I need to actually get over there.
That's it.
No, why did it not drop? Why did it not drop?
Because you weren't quite over to the right, because you just dropped off rather than boosting off. So that little click was where you left the tape running. So it took quite a long time to get from the end of the program load to the end of the tape.
Okay.
And that's because the Stamper Brothers were kind enough to put the game twice on each side of the tape.
Okay.
So that if part of the tape got degraded, you'd still be able to play the game. And I don't know how, it's kind of a new idea to me, and I don't know how many would have done that. It'll be interesting to see whether any others do have that feature other than Ultimate Play the Game games. All of the ones that we got with this Spectrum, we got 5 other games. None of those have it duplicated on one side.
This is hard.
It is hard. So we're going to do some editing, of course. We'll be playing this for quite some time, and we'll edit bits out if you just keep dying. The idea with these games is you do have to think and learn. So you need to be thinking, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? I won't do that in future.
What? It won't pick it up?
Yep, so it wouldn't pick that up because the other section hadn't landed on the rocket yet. So you need to watch below, wait for it to land.
Oh my, died again. Pick that jam up. That way. No!
So normally when I drop things, so this is what I'm talking about, like learning as you go. Normally when I drop things, I'm normally blasting towards that top level. Yeah, so pick up your fuel
It wouldn't let me.
and then fly up to the top level.
Okay, that makes sense. What do you mean blasting towards the top level though?
Well, you'll have to have your jetpack engaged.
Oh, why is it not jumping? Jump up! No, no.
That's it, go up there, that's it. And then go back down now that it's getting close to. And actually, and so this is the second thing to learn. So the second thing to learn is whenever you're collecting from that platform, carefully watch what's coming out the side of the screen, because running away is more important than picking up what's on the screen, yeah?
They're faster than me.
In fact, it's fair to say in this game that your priority is always avoiding aliens. Priority number 1 is avoiding aliens. Priority number 2 is shooting aliens who you can't get away from. And priority number 3 is actually trying to do your mission. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you have to be opportunistic. When there's a chance to do your mission, do it. And have you worked out yet what happens if you fly to the edge of the screen?
No. You get stuck, don't you?
No, it can be an escape route. Try it, flying to the edge, that's it.
Or it can just kill me.
Yeah, but it can be a good way to get away from things.
Whoa, whoa, no, no, no. No. I think we're actually getting used to this. Do not.
So for those people watching on the screen, notice what happens when the jetpack guy, I can't even remember if he has a name now. Notice what happens when he picks up a pink fuel box. You'll see all of the colours start flashing, pink and white. And that's because the jetpack guy's okay if he's on a black background, because he's the colour white. So white and black can exist in the same square. But when he then tries to carry a purple box, things start going wrong, because then you've got black, purple or pink and white. No. And those 3 colours can't exist in the same square. So it kind of adjusts for it and you get these flickering different colours. Basically the colours go wrong. I'm sure the Stamper Brothers would have liked them to have just stayed the colours they're meant to be. And that's what they call attribute clash on the Spectrum. And you'll see it in loads of Spectrum games, and some people hate it and some people like it because it's... Oh my word. I had to cut myself off there. I was talking so much technical I didn't even realise what you were achieving.
I finally finished the level.
Right, heads up, level 2, the aliens will behave in slightly different ways, but your rocket ship's already built, so you just need to collect fuel.
Oh, that makes
Try to learn what the
so
aliens are
much easier.
doing.
Oh my god, they're bouncing. They are
bounce,
bouncing
right?
a lot. No, oh, I thought that was a fuel tank. I was like, why is this fuel tank bouncing?
Oh, well done. I thought you were going to die there.
Oh, well, I did. Didn't die as fast. Oh, no. I press shoot. That is... At least I've got that. For my first time winning, I guess. Oh, God. Too busy looking at the buttons to even work out I was trying to... Nope.
So this is our first episode, and it's I'll say it out loud. It's difficult to know how long to make these, because I think we could have fun on this for another half an hour. I've got a feeling the audience don't want to watch you play this for half an hour, so they're going to have to leave comments down below and give us some kind of idea of what parts of this episode are too long or too short or too detailed or not detailed enough. I mean, it's very difficult to know, because I'm excited about this, so I can talk about it forever. And I think you're having fun with it, so you can probably play it a little bit longer. So when we're not filming for 8-Bit Crisis, is this something you think you could actually see yourself playing and trying to get onto another level?
Yeah. Maybe this should be my challenge until next video. Get past level 2.
I think this is one of those games that doesn't have an end. I think after so many levels, maybe I think it might be 5. I think you get 5 levels, and the aliens behave differently in all 5 levels, and then the game will start again, and you'll have to rebuild your ship.
Jump.
And ultimately, the goal is to try to get a high score.
Nice. Oh, that's my high score I can
So that's the end of level 1.
God.
We'll give level 2 one more go.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go on to our scoring, and we can introduce our viewers to your
I really
steering
like
system.
this. I really like this.
Okay.
Oh.
Well done. Good. Good. Is that the first time you've refueled on level 2?
No, I think I did it last round and it fell off the map. What? Wait, is there drift in this game? Because I swear I just drifted. I'll stop touching the button and it will drift.
Do you want to play it again?
Yeah,
okay.
Happily. Now I need to rebuild it. Nope. Straight up. Wait for it. There we go. Still think this game drifts a bit. When you land and you aren't moving, it will drift slightly. That's something I'm learning. Yeah, do you know what my thinking is for getting a high score? I think I'll refuel it, but I won't I'll get all the fuel parts, but I'm also going to just spend a while to collect. Oh, I didn't even realise I was across that side of the map. Whoa.
Oh, that's a dangerous one to have to collect from the corner, you see, because you don't know when someone's going to come and grab you.
This isn't fair. I'm going to hide there. I want gems. Give me gems. That's a fuel tank. I want the fuel tank, but I want gems.
So the premise of this game, if we think about it, is you're basically a corrupt astronaut.
Yeah, I am, and I'm trying to.
Who's going to extra planets that he's not meant to go and nick a load of stuff, whilst shooting fairly hostile aliens.
Oh, I thought that was the button as well.
I'm just not sure where this idea of a corrupt astronaut comes from, because aren't they meant to be the most kind of trustworthy, calm team players in the world?
Yeah, and I think this is probably going to be a high score.
Decided who's going to go and steal.
This is probably going to be a high score, Dad.
No, you got over 3,000 before.
Yeah, this is my
3,330 your high score at the moment.
Okay. I feel like I could most likely do something. Oh, I don't like that bounce. That bounce is very, very scary.
quite. Okay,
Okay,
good.
I'm going to score this one now. Let's score it.
Right, so should we tell everybody what we're doing then? So every game that you play,
Yeah.
you're going to score. And you're going to score it on 5 different criteria: originality, graphics, sound, playability,
And fun.
Okay, so I think when you're looking at fun and playability, I want you to be, and originality, I want you to be comparing it to games that you like now.
Okay.
Yeah, so you need to be harsh if necessary.
Yeah.
But we really want to know, how does this stack
I really
up
like
compared
this.
to your alternatives.
Yeah.
When it comes to graphics and sound, I know
I'm going to be comparing it to the older games.
Yeah,
Because compared to new games.
I know that you've seen quite a few older games now, because we used to have a Nintendo Mini. And
Nintendo's Super Nintendo
Yeah.
that I had from my
Yeah.
auntie.
So on the score for the graphics and sound, I want you to be sort of frank about how it compares to older games around about that era. Did they do a good job with the graphics or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Scores out of 10 for originality first.
So originality, I've never seen a game like it, even on modern games. So I highly doubt that there's any from older than this, saying it's from the 80s. So I'm going to go 10 on originality. I've never seen a game like it. On graphics, this is being compared to older games. Dad, by the way, are we classing older games as SNES?
No, SNES isn't an 8-bit computer.
Okay.
So this is compared to the other things you've seen whilst we've been thinking about doing this channel. You've seen quite a few little clips.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to say maybe an 8, because it's quite, I know it's 8-bit, but it is quite simplistic even compared to some of the older games.
Okay.
For sound, it's very beepy, whereas games like Manic Miner are more like actually sound based almost. So I'm going to give it maybe a 7. For playability, I'm probably going to give it a 9. The only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is because when you land on something, I've found that it drifts quite a bit.
But do you think that was part of the physics? It's like a skid. If you imagine that you're landing with a jetpack on, you're probably going to skid. So maybe if they built that in,
But
that's possibly contributing.
I don't know, 'cause a lot of the times if you're just above it hovering and then you drop down, it will randomly fling you in it. Whereas fun, I'm giving it a 10 because I really like that.
That's great.
That was really fun.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you liked your first game on the Spectrum. Money well spent, I'd say.
Yeah.
And what do you say to the Stamper brothers?
I'm going to say thank you.
Yeah?
I know you didn't get to... I know what you mean about letting your game speak for themselves, because they really do.
Very good. Well done. Great stuff. So you've actually played your first Spectrum game.
Yeah, I have.
Super. So next we're going to go on to a little bit of coding. Now, back in the day, many people were just happy to play video games, and some of them are still playing video games 40 years later. Yeah, but we're going to actually have a go at doing what many people did, which was learning how the computer works, how the language works, and then eventually, how a game's actually made, which is what a lot of people did in their bedrooms back in the 1980s. Yeah. After that, it became difficult for one person to create a computer game.
Yeah. Sounds really fun though.
Yeah, it is fun, but you have to learn a language and you have to learn it quite precisely. So we're going to go into 128k basic in the Spectrum. So if you just go down and press enter. So we're going to go through some commands. We're basically going to tell the computer to do some things, and then hopefully it will do them if we get it right. We're not going to create a program which would be like a recipe, a set of instructions that it follows. We're just going to give it some commands and see if it can do as it's told. So I'd like you to type in, first of all, 2 plus 3. Can you do that?
Okay. How do you get the plus?
Can you see the plus?
Yeah, I see the plus. I just can't see control anywhere on the...
Yeah, so, symbol shift is the button. So all keyboards back then were a little bit different to today. So 2 plus 3, great. Well done. Okay, so that's giving you the answer as you would expect, 5. So you can use this as a calculator, and it will kind of work like a calculator. So if you have a multiplication, it will do a multiplication before an addition, a bit like the, what do they call it in the school?
Bid mass,
Bid
order
mass.
of operations.
Yeah, that's it. So it can work like a calculator. Let's now ask it to write something. So if you type the word print, that will tell the computer to, that's it. So let's put print 8-bit crisis, but you need to put this in quotation marks. So press space. Yep, you see where they are. Yep.
Yeah, I
so
think I found them.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yep, that's
You
them.
just type 8-bit crisis. Oh dear, delete, yeah. That's it. And press enter. And there you go. So
Yeah,
it does that.
wow.
Right? But you can still see,
Yeah, why
What-
can we still see the command?
well, so it just remembers what you've written before and then does what you've asked it to do afterwards. But you
okay.
can get rid of that if you like. So what we could have done is we could have given it a command before the print statement. So if we type CLS, you can do this now actually. If you type C and LS, yeah. And then if you do the symbol shift and a Z, you'll get that colon symbol come up that's on the key. And then you can type print 8-bit crisis again. Don't forget the quotation marks. So close quotations. And then when you press enter,
Oh, it's got rid of the command.
yeah,
okay.
so the CLS was a command that said clear screen. So it did that before it did the second thing, and you need the colon to separate them. Okay. So we'll also just try one more thing with the text and the numbers. So we're going to tell the computer to remember something and then to use it a little bit later on. Okay. So the way we do this is we use something called variables. So we're going to type into the computer that we want the computer to remember that the variable a equals a number. If you type let a equals, put a, well, let space a equals, which you'll, yeah, that's it, you'll need the symbol
L,
shift again. Choose a number between 1 and 10.
I think 2.
2. So a equal 2. So if you press enter now, the computer will remember, and it says OK at the bottom, so now it knows a equals 2. If you now ask the computer to print again, you can include that variable. So type this for me, type print a, that's more like it, print a times, which is a
Okay.
star on the letter B,
Okay.
and then choose another number between 1 and 10.
5.
5. Press enter. Would you know what it's going to say?
It should say 10.
Yeah, there we go. So we've got 10, which is 2 times 5. Okay.
Oh, so it is a calculator.
So it remembers that you put in a as the variable being equal to the number of 2.
Oh,
And then it
okay.
uses it later on. Okay. So just a couple of other fun things to do then before we wrap up on our first coding lesson. So just type in for me border 5.
Okay.
Enter.
Okay. Ooh, it's cyan.
Yeah, so there's not many colours, there's only about 16 colours on this computer, but you can change
quite
the
a lot,
colours
Dad.
around. Well, not compared to the millions on modern computers, but you can change the border like this, yeah? Now, if you type in a slightly longer set of commands, split out, so let's do ink 2, and then one of those colons again to give it a different command, yeah? And then paper 6.
Okay.
And then another colon, and then in quotation marks I want you to put, well, print, and then in quotation marks
What will we do?
8-bit crisis, yeah?
I have another idea.
Yeah, okay, very good. I know where you're going with this. Ah, okay. So the reason it's come up with a red cursor now is to say that there's a mistake in this, and you've missed something off the end, haven't you?
The closing quotation.
That's right. Good. And press enter. Well done. Okay. So what we have now is we've changed the colour of the ink, which is the writing, and also the colour of the paper, which is behind it. Okay? So that's a little introduction to coding, and we're going to do some more of this as time goes by, and hopefully everyone who's watching will learn a little bit about the basic language as well.
Yeah.
All right? Happy?
Yeah.
Well done. Very good.
Okay, so as we come to the end of our video and our first episode, we'd like to give you a little challenge. And we're going to be giving you one of these every week at the end of every episode. And this episode's one is to download a Spectrum emulator, and if you've got access to some ROMs, you can use them. So for the emulators, we really like Fuse. The channel, it works really well, and the one that we don't think works as well is one we tried called Specky, which if you're going to play games on it, it just runs way too fast for Windows 10 and 11. But we are going to tell you you can play games on it, and this is part of your challenge to play some games, maybe do some coding.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you very much for watching our first episode. The whole point of this, as we said earlier, is to introduce Luigi to some computers from the 1980s and play some games and learn a little bit about how they work. So if you learn something along the way with us, and that's absolutely fantastic, please do tell your friends about it.
And remember, you can press those little buttons down below of like and subscribe.
So thank you very much for watching, and until next time,
Happy gaming.